Welcome to XO, where science meets heart at the kitchen table. I'm your host, Davey. In each episode, I narrate B-side tracks curated around a single theme: the why behind the ingredients, the swaps that make it better, and the stories that have been simmering for generations. No interviews, no guests, just me and you. This is EP 17, the extension. Before we get into the kitchen, the tank you didn't know you could share, the table that keeps getting longer, the couch that turns into a lifeline, and the chair nobody wants to sit in, I need to tell you what this episode is really about. It's not about generosity. It's about how little it actually costs to make room for someone else. Because once you realize you can split what's already yours without losing anything, once you learn that pulling up the same chair year after year is what actually makes someone family, once you understand the difference between managing a problem alone and being taken care of while you solve it, and once you see that some people only need to be in your life for exactly as long as you need them, and that's already enough. 4 tracks, 1 tank that never runs out. Let's extend. Track 1, The Pump. It was late November, maybe early December, dark by 5. I was driving back from San Diego about 60 miles from home, and I stopped for gas. Cold nights like that, you don't expect anybody to talk to you. You pull in, you swipe your card, you stand there watching the numbers climb, and you get back in the car. That's the whole transaction. Nobody's looking for engagement at a gas station at night in December. There was a car on the other side of the pump. I hadn't noticed anyone in it. Then a man walked over while I was filling up and asked if I could help him. He was about an hour from home and out of gas. My first thought was money. I told him I didn't have any cash on me. I wasn't lying. I just assumed that's what he needed, because that's usually what people need when they ask for help. Food money, gas money, something you hand over and drive away from. He said something I wasn't expecting. He said once I finished filling up my own tank, I could just put whatever I could spare into his. I want to be honest about the hesitation because it was real, not because I didn't want to help him. It was the strangeness of it. I'd been asked for money before. I'd never been asked to split my own fill-up with a stranger at a pump, at night, 60 miles from anywhere. 1,000 thoughts ran through my head in the time it takes to hang up a nozzle. Is this safe? Is this normal? What does whatever I can spare even mean? And underneath all of that, a simpler thought. This actually makes sense. He wasn't asking me to reach into my wallet. He was asking me to redirect something I was already doing. I knew roughly how much I was putting into my car. So I did the math standing there. 3/4 for me, 1/4 for him. Enough to get him the last stretch home. Enough that I still had what I needed too. That's the whole physics of it. Nobody lost anything. He just needed the tank to stretch 60 more miles. And I had 60 miles of gas I hadn't decided I needed yet. I don't tell this story to make myself sound generous. That's not the point. And it makes me uncomfortable when it gets read that way. Here's the actual point. There have been times in my life when I needed exactly that kind of help and didn't ask for it, because asking felt harder than just running out. I know what it is to do the math in your head on empty and come up short. So when this man asked, some part of me recognized the position he was in before he finished the sentence. Helping him wasn't generosity. It was closer to paying something backward. He wasn't there to teach me a lesson, but he did. You can only extend what you've already needed yourself. The people who show up for you first are usually the ones who ran out of something once too. He said 60 miles would get him home, not a full tank, not a windfall, just enough. I've thought about that since. How rarely anyone actually needs the whole thing. Mostly people need the next 60 miles. I finished my fill-up, handed him the last quarter, and we both got back in our cars and drove off into the cold in opposite directions. I never got his name. I don't know if he made it all the way home. though I have to believe he did. He seemed like a man who knew exactly how far 60 miles would take him. I think about that gas station more than a moment that Small should stick around for. Maybe because it cost me nothing and meant everything to him. Maybe because it reminded me that the extension doesn't have to be big to be real. You don't have to give someone your whole tank. You just have to give them the part of yours you weren't using yet. That stranger only needed the part of my tank I wasn't using yet. Some extensions happen once, at a pump in the dark, and you never see the person again. Others happen every single year at the same table until nobody remembers where the extra chair came from. Track 2, the table leaf. There's a version of the holiday invite everybody's heard of. Someone throws it out at the last minute, half out of guilt. Come over, we've got room, nobody should be alone on Thanksgiving. It's a kind gesture. It's also, if you're on the receiving end of it, a little bit visible. You know why you got the call. My friends Bill and Evelyn never made that call. For close to 10 years now, the invitation has just shown up. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, whatever the calendar hands us. And I've said yes almost every time, not because I had nowhere else to go, because sitting at their table stopped feeling like being hosted a long time ago. A table has a fixed size until somebody decides it doesn't. You pull the leaf, you set another place, and the shape of the room changes to fit the person you just made room for. That's a small mechanical thing, a piece of wood sliding into a groove. But it's also the whole idea. What Bill and Evelyn did wasn't add a chair for a guest. They extended the table like you'd extend it for family, without a second thought about whether that was accurate. And after enough years of sitting in that extended seat, it stops being a technicality. You start to believe it. I've walked into that house on a holiday and felt like I was arriving, not visiting. Nobody explained the difference to me. I just noticed one year that I didn't feel like company anymore. Here's the part worth sitting with, longer than the memory itself. Most of us think hospitality is something you extend to the person who clearly needs it. The friend between apartments, the coworker whose family's out of state, the obvious gap in someone's holiday. That instinct is good. It's also incomplete. The rare thing is extending the table to someone who technically has other options, and doing it so consistently for so many years that the distinction between guest and family just erodes on its own. Nobody sat me down and declared me family. Bill and Evelyn just kept pulling the leaf year after year until the label stopped mattering to any of us. That's the actual lesson in it. Belonging isn't usually announced. It's built out of repetition, the same invitation, the same seat, the same expectation that, of course you're coming, why would you ask? You don't get to family by saying the word. You get there by showing up at the same table enough times that the word becomes unnecessary. I think about that table more than I think about most of the meals I've eaten at it. Not because the food wasn't good, it always was, but because the leaf never came out. It just stayed extended, holiday after holiday, like the room had permanently decided it was bigger now. That's the kind of hospitality worth learning from. Not the gesture you make once for the friend who obviously needs it. The one you keep making, quietly, for a decade, until nobody remembers whose table it started as. You don't have to call someone family for them to become it. You just have to keep pulling the leaf. Bill and Evelyn extended a table, one holiday at a time, until the word guest quietly disappeared. But there's a harder version of that same instinct. The one where you don't just set another place. You hand someone the whole room, the whole roof, for as many nights as they need it. Track 3, The Couch, February 1st, 2003. I remember the date because it was the same day the Columbia broke apart on its way back down. I wasn't watching the news that morning. I was in the middle of my own smaller collapse, trying to figure out where I was going to sleep. I had to move out of where I was living. No plan yet, just an exit. The practical math was easy enough to run. I could go to a hotel, sure, but a hotel's a countdown. Every night is a number ticking down on money I'd rather put toward the next place. And a hotel room is just you, alone, staring at a ceiling, trying to make a decision with nobody to bounce it off. So I called my friend Alan in San Diego and asked if I could stay with him. Maybe 7 days, just enough time to think straight. Alan said yes without making it a thing. That's the part I remember most. No hesitation, no negotiation, no accounting for what it would cost him to have someone camped in his space for a week. 7 days times 24 hours. That's what he gave me. Not just a place to lie down, but a familiar person in the next room, someone I could think out loud in front of. There's a difference between figuring your life out in a hotel and figuring it out on a friend's couch. In the hotel, you're managing a problem. On the couch, you're being taken care of while you solve it. I made the right decision that week. I'm not sure I would have gotten there as fast or as clearly without somewhere comfortable to land while I worked it out. Here's the part I didn't expect to think about until I started telling this story. A few years ago, Alan needed a place to stay, and I gave him the primary bedroom, the one with the walk-in shower that feels more like a spa than a bathroom. I took the daybed in the laundry room. 2 nights, not 7, not close to an even trade, and it was never supposed to be. I didn't think about the couch in San Diego while it was happening. I was just glad to have him there. It's only now, saying it out loud, that I see the shape of it, the same generosity, just moving in the other direction. These days when I stay at his place, stripping the sheets and starting the laundry before I leave isn't a gesture. It's automatic. That's what happens when you've been on the receiving end of something like that. You stop keeping score and just start doing the next kind thing without being asked. People know the phrase couch surfing, bouncing from friend to friend when you don't have a landing spot yet. It sounds temporary, almost aimless when you say it that way. It isn't. It's one of the more generous things a person can offer another person, and most of the time, nobody makes a ceremony out of it. Where you sleep matters more than we admit. It shapes how you process things, how clearly you think, whether you wake up able to face the next decision or just more tired than the day before. Offering someone your couch, your spare room, your daybed in the laundry room, it's not that different from setting a good table for someone. You're saying, rest here. You're safe. Eat well. Think clearly. Come back when you're ready. Alan didn't hesitate in 2003. I try not to either now. Alan didn't hesitate for 7 days on a couch, and neither did I when it was my turn to return it. But not every extension comes from someone you've known for 20 years. Sometimes the person who shows up for the hardest stretch of your life is someone you've barely spoken to at all. Track 4, the chair. In 2024, before I could be considered for a major surgery, I had to get through 6 rounds of chemotherapy first. That was the deal. Chemo to shrink things down, then the surgery, if the numbers cooperated. Nobody warns you what the room actually looks like. I pictured something clinical. Curtains, quiet. Instead, it was more like an airport lounge. Plush chairs, 30 or 40 of them, arranged so you were facing other people instead of a wall. You'd be there 7-8 hours at a time, tethered to an IV, and directly across from you, close enough to see everything, was somebody else's whole day. You couldn't help but watch. Somebody's spouse gripping their hand. Somebody staring at the ceiling because this round was clearly not going the way they'd hoped. I didn't know a single one of these people. I felt for every one of them anyway. That's a strange kind of intimacy. Sitting shoulder to shoulder in fear with strangers, hour after hour, session after session, and never learning a single name. I have extended family I've technically known my whole life, and genuinely known almost none of. The kind you see at a wedding, a graduation, occasionally a funeral, and otherwise not at all. Holly falls into that category. I could count the number of real conversations we'd had on one hand. Somewhere in there, She found out through my sister that I was going through this. As it turned out, she'd been through chemo herself not long before, so she knew exactly what nobody tells you. That you'll get thirsty in ways water doesn't fix. That your hands need something to do. That your mouth needs help remembering how to taste anything. Before each session, a package would show up. A squeeze toy for the chair. Small things for my desk. Not toys exactly. Just objects meant to give my eyes somewhere pleasant to land. Orange ginger lozenges, which turned out to be the one thing that actually helped. 6 rounds, 6 packages, sometimes a card too. She kept doing it the entire way through. Here's what I kept turning over, session after session, watching strangers across the room hold on to each other. I didn't know their names, but I felt something for every one of them. And there I was being cared for by someone I barely knew any better. Holly, connected to me by blood and almost nothing else, showing up like she'd been doing it her whole life. It made me rethink what the word extended family is even supposed to mean. Not distance, not obligation, just people who are there, on the edges of your life, mostly quiet, until a moment arrives that calls something forward you didn't know was in them. Holly didn't have a decade of shared history to draw on. She had one thing. She knew firsthand exactly what that chair felt like, and she used it. I made it through the 6 sessions, qualified for the surgery, and went in. It was a big one. 2 weeks in the hospital. By day 4 or 5, you start to forget why you're still there. It just becomes your life, the room, the schedule, the routine of it. On day 7, the pathology came back, clean. A long road ahead, but a clear one. The first thing I did was text Holly. She'd been invested in every round of this the same way I had, and she deserved to hear it before almost anyone. Since then, things have mostly gone back to how they were before. The occasional hello, the wedding, the holiday. We don't talk every week. We never did. But I don't think that's the part worth dwelling on. Some people are in your life for a lifetime. Some are in it for exactly as long as you need them, and not a day longer. And that's not a lesser kind of connection. It's just a different shape. Holly showed up for 6 rounds of chemo in a chair I'll never sit in again, and then the world went back to its normal size. I think you're supposed to let that be enough. That's EP 17, the extension. 4 tracks, one idea running under all of them. A stranger at a gas pump who only needed the miles you weren't using. A table pulled out for the same guest for 10 years running, until the word guest stopped applying. A couch held open for exactly as many nights as it took, in both directions. A cousin barely known who showed up 6 times, exactly when it mattered. Extension isn't about having more to give. It's about noticing what you already have that someone else needs. Here's to health, happiness, and a remix that's uniquely yours. Thank you for spending time with me. Food feeds the body. Music feeds the soul. Remixology is where they collide. Download the Remixology app. New music and recipes drop every Friday.